Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Best Practices to Work Remotely. My name is Dr. Kortney Peagram, and I'm here with you today to give you some tips, resources, and strategies to find your groove and being successful from working from home. With everything going on, sometimes we might feel a sense of overwhelm, stress, or really we've never worked from home, so this is all new to us. So I'm here to give you my tools and the stuff has worked for me. I've been running Bulldog Solution and Peagram Consulting for over 12 years. In the beginning of starting my businesses, since we were small, we had to work remotely. So I have a lot of experience on understanding how to design a workspace that works for me in my home. Also, I'm an adjunct professor at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. And with that, my first 6 years of teaching, I was online. So I still had to figure out how to do that. So when it comes to working remotely, I have a lot of tools for you. A little bit more about me is what I do for a living is Bulldog Solution is an anti-bullying, anti-violence company, and we focus on providing social emotional learning, assemblies, and then we do parent training and PBs. With everything going on, we put all of our services online. For the corporate side, what we do is we do executive coaching, team building, sexual harassment and workplace harassment training, and that too, we've moved online. So that's a little bit about me. So now let's focus on you. So sit back and I hope that you learn a lot from today. And please, if you have any questions or concerns, reach out to me. I'm here to give you as many resources as you can as you navigate working remotely. So let's talk about what we're going to look over today. So we're going to talk about setting your day for success. So planning. We're going to talk about best practices to work remotely. So what are some things that might work for you? And then we're going to go over some boundaries, timelines, and expectations. How do we set those things up? So first off, let's talk about what we need to do. So starting your day on the right foot. So that means that, since you are working from home, you have to develop new habits. So you have to decide what time you're going to wake up, right? You're going to have to figure out what are your work hours, right? I've heard often from people that with their hours working from home, it's like extended. They don't know how to turn it off. So really, it's important to have those things in place of what are your virtual hours. Setting the tone and atmosphere. We'll get more into that, but it's really about understanding what is your virtual workspace? What does it look like, right? How can we create it so that you feel like you're most productive and you have the less distractors? So planning out your day is really important as far as mapping out your projects because working virtually, you have to manage your teams, deadlines, and all these things that come into place. And usually you have meetings face to face. Now you have to do all that virtually, right? So it's really important to figure out how do we map those things out. Time blocking and setting timers is my key to success. I'm going to tell you more about how to do that, and then I'll have a template so you can look at it and try it for yourself. Last but not least, we really need to talk about how do we eliminate distractors. Often I find myself, if I'm not set up for success, I have a gazillion things open on my computer. My phone is beside me, and every time I hear a bing, a ding, or a vibration, I check that, and it takes me off focus. So we're going to talk about how do we eliminate distractors so we can condense our time, and then we can really get things done. Because we all know that if you're working from home and you have children or roommates, or you're taking care of your parents, you have a full house. So it's really important to stay focused and knock things out faster versus being distracted because you'll be at your computer for hours. So let's talk about how do we start our day on the right foot. So I'd recommend getting up at least an hour before you plan to start working. So set your alarm. There's a trick I read and I really love it. Set 2 alarms. The first one is like to gently get you up, and the second one, which is 15 to 20 minutes later, is the one you actually get up. I found it really helpful for me because I know that after the first one, there's a second, and that's when I have to start going. I would also recommend that in that first hour before you start working, do something for yourself. Right? So it could be, some people like to scroll social media. Maybe you want to read, journal, meditate. Make sure that you develop a good, healthy habit for you that it feels good, right? So that you start your day on a positive note. As far as watching TV in the morning, I would stay away from that because then it's so easy to take your laptop and move it to the couch and then you're watching TV all day. And we know that watching TV and doing work is not super productive. I also have a trick that sounds silly but is really effective. Get out of your PJs. Even if you change into different pajamas or comfy clothes, just change your clothes. It changes your mindset. So try not to stay in the clothes that you slept in. We do this at my house, and I hope you can do it too. Make your bed in the morning. It helps so that you don't take midday naps, right? If you have a bed that's already made. Once you're there, it's the start of your day. I recommend that you spend the first 15-20 minutes reviewing and planning your schedule for the day. Do you have online meetings? Do you have calls? Make sure those numbers are in your calendar. Those links are there, that you're set up so that you're not scrambling to make a meeting virtually and you end up 15 minutes late, or you have the wrong code, the wrong phone number. So review and plan. Go through each item that needs to be done. And then another trick that I have is I always try to keep it to 3 top things I need to do. And then, if I have additional meetings, they can kind of fall in place. But don't create a task list where you feel like you have so much to do and only limited time, because that's really overwhelming. Come up with the top 3. And if you're really pushing it, maybe top 5, but don't go over that. You won't have time. Think about it. You have your kids at home, you have your parents, you might have your roommates. You have a ton of distractors already. So let's try to keep this super simple. Create a clean and organized space to work. So, for example, some of us, we're in Chicago. A lot of times we don't have the space necessarily to have our own office. So you might have to use your kitchen table. So I would recommend that you build that space every morning and you break it down before dinner time. So that means that you clean it, organize, don't have a ton of bills, don't have a ton of food around. It's just your space. So computer, notepad, pens, pencils, markers. I love index cards to jot down notes. And then my computer, if I need a printer. I also always make sure I have water near me and my coffee so that to keep hydrated and for me to get that energy from the coffee. I love my caffeine. It's really important to keep that space clean. So I know sometimes at work we eat on our computers. I'd recommend that you have it when you're about to eat, you move your computer or sit at different areas of your kitchen table or even go somewhere else to eat, because you want to stop and take that break, because since you're so embedded at this point with work and your computer, and you need to change the atmosphere, right? So you have to think that when you're working from an office, you have the break room, you can go to someone else's cube, you have meetings you're running to. You're not just staying focused on one laptop or one computer. So move around, right? So have lunch somewhere else, give yourself breaks, stand up, but make sure that your space is clean and organized. And each night, break it down and then rebuild it every day. So it's like a virtual workspace. So I know that some of you have been maybe working at a shared space. Often in the shared space, you break down your space every day and you rebuild it. If you don't have an office, it's kind of the same concept. Last but not least, finding some quiet time. So I know it might be hard, but find a time in the day where you can be the most productive and you can be really quiet and focused. So if you can put headphones on, listen to some music, that's great, or white noise. For me and my family, when I wear my headphones, they know that I need my attention to my work that I'm doing, right? And I find that when they have the cues, they know what to do, so they don't distract me or interrupt me. Another idea would be, some people can work in their bedrooms if they have a couch or a desk. Just find a space. I really recommend you do not work on your bed, and you can work on the couch and just make sure the TV's off, right? We just don't want additional distractors. So find that quiet time. I do it typically in the morning before I actually start my day and everyone's up. It's like a miracle worker for me. I have time, it's quiet, I get to journal, I get to sip my coffee and visualize my day. I'm a huge component of visualization. So if you can find some quiet time, run yourself through your day, take some time for yourself, and it really starts you on the right foot. Now, we talked about how do you set yourself up. So when I do my trainings, I always talk about how to set expectations. So I want to run you through some sample expectations you can set for yourself and for your team when you're working remotely. Set yourself some office hours. So your office hours can be from 8 to 5, right? Then set some expectations for yourself. Like, I will turn my phone on Do Not Disturb in the evening. I do that from like probably 6 o'clock to the next morning because there's nothing really that's that emergent for me or that's a crisis that I need to address. If it is, then I do have my favorites and my phone will get itself on off Do Not Disturb and I can attend to it. But really think about what's important for you and when can you put your phone on Do Not Disturb? When are those moments where you can put your phone down? I really set clear expectations with my team and how I intend on communicating. Are you using Slack? Are you using email? Are you doing go-to meetings? Are you doing Skype? Share with your team how you're going to communicate with them and how often. When do they need to check in? Like for me, tomorrow morning, my team, we have a meeting at 9 a.m. And then I'm going to check in midday with them. And at the end of the day, they send me an email of what they have accomplished. We use different apps like Trello, and then I think it's Todoist to track each other's work. Slack is another great app that can be really helpful when you work virtually. So find systems that work for you, but also keep the systems simple. You don't want to get your team overwhelmed with all these different applications. So to recap, be clear on how you're going to communicate with your team and what system you're going to use so they can be aware of how they respond to you. So that's really a key point. And then you have to talk about how you're going to report back. So for me, I send emails. We also use like text message if it's a quick task to be completed. It depends what systems work for you. So with that, like I would just be clear on your final reporting or your updates. I would CC everyone that's involved and needs to be in the conversation, right? And then assign specific tasks. So an example we have that we've done is when we send an email, if there's a certain person that needs attention to that specific task, we at them. So at Mark, at Hannah, at Shannon, and then we list what they need to do. So it's clear about how these updates are being sent and how we're distributing the work. Another expectation that I try to follow and I really push, it's I will take 15-minute breaks. So for every 45 minutes to an hour that you're doing work, you need to stand up. You need to stop. So as I would say like a manic productivity person, I tend to use my 15 minutes, especially if I'm at home, to take care of chores, like doing the laundry, cleaning up the kitchen, right? So I take those 15 minutes. So I'm moving and I'm feeling more productive but also just walking my dog around the block. Takes 15 minutes. I'm outside, fresh air. I reset myself. I always feel the best when I take my dog for a walk. I talked about this and I need to put it in the expectation. I will not eat on my computer. It's the worst because you can get sticky, you get food all over, but also it's just like it's cluttering up your space. So if you want a snack or you want to eat, just move away from your computer. Eat. You don't need to multitask. You're going to be doing that so much in the next few weeks. We're really trying to eliminate that. And then I'm going to repeat this. I will not do work in front of the TV. So easy to binge. It's so easy. You know, being an online professor when I was correcting papers, one of my colleagues was like, you know, I watch TV and I correct papers. And I tried to do that. It didn't work so well for me. I found myself distracted. I was missing stuff. And I wasn't really paying attention. So in this era of technology where everything is fast, furious, and needs to be done yesterday, it's really important to do things with intention, not just to get them done. If you're entering data, then set a timer. Do 15 minutes, 30 minutes of data entry, and then go watch a show, right? You don't have to try to do everything at once because even though you're watching TV, you're really not giving your full attention to your work. So you might take twice as long to get the stuff done. Setting the tone and atmosphere. For me, it's all about mindset. It's like, how do I visualize my day and how I see it running? What are the things that excite me about today? It could be a conversation, it could be a meeting, it could be some updates. So it's really about having a positive mindset. A trick I have is every morning I write down 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for. Over time, I've increased it, but at least 3 to 5. Start with that. What are you grateful for today, right? And think about how that makes you feel. And what I'm wanting is you to get to a place of joy, of excitement, so that you start your day with the right mindset. Sometimes what I do is I think about what I have on my day and what throughout the day I'm going to be grateful for. The people I'm working with, the clients I'm going to talk to, anything. Just try to find gratitude statements to start your day, because that starts it with the right tone and atmosphere. Again, location, location, location. Find your virtual office where you're putting it in your house and make sure that you almost claim your spot, right? So if you have your spouse working, so your spouse might be working in the basement, you're working in the kitchen. You may want to switch sometimes, but just make sure that you know where your space is so that you can set up. And location is key. So I would really recommend if you had a place where you have enough sunlight coming in so that you're not working in the dark, and find a place where that you can be the most productive and feel that you have some quiet time and less distractions. I know it might be hard when we're thinking about it, but if you can get your kids set up to doing work, or you can, even if they're doing online learning, they have a headset, you set a timer, 45 minutes, they're doing their thing, you're doing your thing. It starts to kind of align yourselves so that when you're in work mode, everyone is in work mode. So that location is really important. Find your productivity hours. So there's a ton of research on this. So it's really about when you're most productive. So I found that I have a few different sets of productivity hours. I'm highly productive in the evening if I started my day later, but I'm really productive in the morning. I think from 9 to, I would say, noon. I can really get a lot of stuff done, or in the later hours from 7 to 10. So find those hours so that that's when you get your top 3 things done. So start observing, tracking your time and seeing when you're productive, because you really never had to do that when you're at work because you're supposed to be doing work. So now it's really important to find that sweet spot and you're most productive because you can get more stuff done when you're alert and ready. Create a flexible workspace for you, which means that if meetings come up or things are going, you can move around so that you're not just stuck. So for example, if you are working at your kitchen table, it's flexible, right? You have a notepad, you can move around. If you're in your kitchen and you have to do a conference call, you can walk back and forth, right? So find ways to create that flexibility. And also, if you can't have the same location every day, we have to work on what can I move that's it's almost like your toolkit of office supplies that you can move from space to space, so it's flexible. So you go from the basement, the kitchen, to your bedroom, the dining room, and maybe if it gets really warm, you can work outside. So think about how the different spaces and visualize how it would work out for you. What are the benefits? So that's what I'm talking about, being flexible. So add a touch of creativity or spark. So it might be in your kitchen, like if there's a wall, you add some cool quotes, maybe some pictures that keep you motivated. If you're working in your basement, maybe Post-its. Find stuff that motivates you, inspires you, and gets you sparked up. I think that's really important when we're working virtually, because think about how your desk might look, or your office, or your cube. You want to kind of add that little component of creativity. You might be working from home for a few weeks, a month, we don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty. But by us being creative and finding a secure, safe, flexible space where we want to go to every day, it's really helpful. It's the little things that make the big difference. Eliminating distractors. Okay, this is super important. Turn your phone over when working on your computer so it doesn't ding, bang, ring, or anything. And I know sometimes you have to answer your calls and stuff, but the times that you don't, just turn it over. Don't look at it. Don't pay attention to it, because it takes you off your task when you start answering text messages and emails. Keep your space clean and clutter-free. So we talked about that again. Like, we just need to keep it really clean and clutter-free, because if you're looking for stuff, or you have a gazillion pieces of paper, you have all these documents and things aren't organized, it takes you twice the amount of time to get things done. And since you're also maybe flexible with your space and you're moving around, you don't want to lose stuff. So keep it organized. I use folders. On the top of the folder, I write the day and my task list, and then I put the stuff in the folder for each day. Or I do the same thing, the folder for each project I have. You can do that. Whatever you can do to organize your mind and your space is really important. That's how we can really stay clutter-free. Try to block out time to check your email. I know sometimes it's hard. So I do a half hour in the morning and a half hour in the afternoon, and then in the evening, I just clean it all up for the day. Sometimes it's harder. I spend more time on my email, but I set a timer. 30 minutes checking email. Whatever I don't get done, I'll get done in the afternoon. If you need more time, do an hour. But make sure that you block out that time and that's the only thing you're doing. And then when it's done, the timer goes off and you move on to something that requires more focus or more of your skill set, and then go get to it. Because going back from email to project, it really breaks down your productivity and your focus. When working on your computer, don't have multiple applications open. Have only the ones that you need. So I say one or two, right? So close them all out, because that's when things come in and we get distracted. I love this one. And last but not least, have a notepad beside your computer. Each time a thought pops into your head, it's unrelated to work, jot it down. So it could be like what you need to get from the groceries, a text you have to respond to, something you have to buy, so that once it's out of your head on paper, you can continue to do what you're doing. And then instead of trying to find out how to do it, when to do it, it's on the piece of paper, you won't forget it. But it also keeps you focused to continue doing what you're supposed to be doing. I have a ton of index cards where I use Post-its, and at the end of the day, I review the stuff that popped into my head, even if it's a great idea, and then I organize it in what folder it needs to go in or what task. So that's really important. Mapping out your projects. So I recommend in the beginning of the week, you list down all your big projects and you break them down. So for example, for me this week, we have 3 new series of online courses that are being launched. So each online course is a project. So then in each of my online courses, I have worksheets I need to build. There's content I have to design. There's the PowerPoint slides, the deck I have to build. Then I have to submit it to my web guy, get it uploaded, recorded. So I do that for each project. So then when I break it down, then I break it down into tasks. So if you think about content, oh, that's really overwhelming. Break down the content. Break it down into the different topics you're going to cover within your course or your project, and divide it up. Then figure out approximate time to do the project, and then set that into your calendar or to your daily tasks. So then after you broke everything down, go over the task list and then plug that into your calendar. So for example, with the online courses, tomorrow in my meeting with my team, I'm going to assign everyone tasks. And then in my calendar, I blocked out time to just work on the first component of the class, which is the next class we're doing is how to motivate your team online virtually. So I'm going to break it down into the first steps of getting to know your team, and then activities to get to know your team, setting expectations. So that's how I'm going to start breaking it down. So I write down kind of my overview of what I want to cover in the calendar, and then I get that done. So that's how I put my tasks into the calendar, with an overview of what I want to accomplish and what does that task look like. If the task is overwhelming, break it down into more steps so it doesn't overwhelm you. With some of the curriculums we build, they're sometimes 25 pages. It's a lot of content, and it can be very overwhelming. So breaking it down into the different components really helps. So for me, I just built one on resentment, so I broke it down. The definitions people need to know. What are the different emotions that come with resentment? What are the activities I want to have? What are the worksheets I need? What is the content? What are the questions I want to ask? So I broke it down. So think about this bucket. I created like sub buckets and I put everything in. So then I just take one little bucket at a time, go through my tasks, and I feel done. So each small bucket shouldn't be more than an hour worth of work, because if not, it can be very overwhelming. So it's really about how do we break down big projects into daily tasks that bring her to our overarching goal, to completion. That's what I want you to work on. I want to talk about timers and time blocks. So in the last slide, I explained how, I set it up, but I color coordinate my time. So my teaching is blue, my office work is yellow, my workouts are brown, my personal stuff are purple, my corporate work is pink, and then my school work, so the Bulldog programs that I run, like the assemblies and the teacher trainings, all that stuff, is red. So I color coordinate everything so that I know exactly when I see the color, what does it mean? So I just ran through the colors with you, and I didn't even look at my calendar because I know what those colors mean. So when it pops on my calendar, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do, or what topic I'm focusing on, or what part of my business I need to focus. So I think it's really important to color coordinate your calendar and then create time blocks. So that, working out, if it's going to be an hour, then make sure that you give yourself enough time to maybe get to the gym or maybe shower. So you need those transition times. We think that we can teleport ourselves sometimes, and I'm laughing because I think I can do that, and I can't. And then we show up late. So especially working from home, you don't want to be rushing to a meeting online, and you just didn't give yourself not enough time. So transition is really important. I set timers for 30 to 45 minutes so I can eliminate my distractors. And I only do one task at a time. So I figure out what I'm going to do, what it looks like. I say, I put my timer on. I use Alexa a lot. And then when the timer goes off, wherever I'm at, I have to stop. I make notes of what I need to do next, and then it's done. If you have 2 or more people working from home, designate work hours and locations to help stay focused. So I know that a lot of you, your spouses will be home, your roommates, your partners. So really figure out who's working what hours, and then how you can help how can you be a little flexible to help each other out, to collaborate, so that you don't get on top of each other and on each other's nerves, or you're frustrated, or it's like you're just butting heads. So really figure out what are your working hours and then the location you're going to be at. So that really helps you get set up, but also you can stay focused because you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Then block out time for breaks and family time. It's really easy to get sucked into work. So when I mean block out breaks, so that 15-minute walk is amazing if you can do it. If you can't do as many breaks as you want, or you want to, just figure out how to keep your body moving so you're not sitting in front of your computer for 8 hours straight, because that's really difficult. And we get sucked into work because it's like we have no more boundaries when we're at home and we're working remotely. So set those up, right? Put in the calendar, the blue, just like for me, set a color for your family, blue, purple, whatever. And that's family time. Especially with the pandemic and everything going on, it's really important to connect to the people that we love. Even though they're in our faces all day, that doesn't mean we're spending quality time together. So at least make sure that at night, in the evenings, you have some family time. So let's go over the best practices we talked today. Important to plan. Create a space that you feel comfortable and effective and you're productive. Create that structure weekly and daily. What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? Where is this on the calendar? What do I need for this, right? Set your expectations. Be clear, consistent, and make sure that you share that with your team or even your family members. Give yourself breaks. Be kind to yourself. Build in social time. So if it's social media, interacting online, build that in. It's 15 minutes, not too bad. But make sure also that you connect with your family and your loved ones. Be consistent. Be consistent in your day, in the way you operate. And when you're going to say you're going to do something, make sure that you do it, right? So being consistent when we're remote is very important to increase trust in our team. Being flexible. This is going to be a crazy few weeks, months, who knows? So be flexible. We're going to all have to adjust to working remotely. Last but not least, really self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. This is new. Forgive yourself, right? Talk about the successes you had every day and the challenges, but remember, this is the time to reflect on, like, you're doing the best you can, and maybe some days it'll be really difficult, and that's the best you could do. So really, self-compassion is really important. So that is all for us today. I hope this was useful, sparked some ideas, gave you some insight. I'm going to, after you listen to this video, you'll have access to the worksheets and some of the tips so that you can use them, and hopefully that is something you can implement daily with you. So I'll provide you with a time blocking sample calendar, a behavioral monitoring sheet, and a little few tricks and tips and resources I'll add in there. But thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to see if this was helpful. So send me any feedback that you have. You can email me directly at Kortney@PeagramConsulting.com. All this contact info is in the bottom on the YouTube, so you can reach out to me. I'm here for you. Together we can do this. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.